So unfair.
A really unusual news conference there, which finished with him giving away his hat to one of the media.
That's right. I wonder if he put a tariff on it as he threw it away.
I don't know. So he's announcing basically reciprocal tariffs on anyone who taxes America. They'll be taxing them back.
At the same rate. He said reciprocal taxes, they do it, we do it, and we're going to do it to them. Let's keep it simple.
Exactly.
Like
as far as Australia is concerned, we have had a free trade agreement with the US since January 1st, 2005, so we don't put tariffs on America. He said Australia bans our beef, which we apparently do under biosecurity laws, saying there are diseases attached. So I'm not sure whether that can be lifted. We'll go to our economist Evan Lucas to explain what on earth happened there, because to some of us it's quite confusing. What about...
Me too.
Yeah, because he had a big board and he was going through each country and what tariffs those countries put on America, and therefore what America will do to them.
So I think the one to probably highlight is the UK. The UK was singled out as getting 10% and he reciprocated that with a 10%. We have a similar tax structure to the way that we deal with imports like the UK. It's probably around the GST, and therefore the assumption, and it is that, an assumption would be that we too will get the 10%. I think we need to go back to the beef story. The one there that I think needs to be raised is he talked about us banning beef into it. The suggestion is, does that mean that our beef is banned into the US? Now, that's a $3 billion industry per annum for our Australian beef players. That would be the concern, and that's the one thing that I think you have to pick up immediately, is that what he's saying, a ban of American goods into a country will mean a ban of those goods into another country. That's there. And as I spoke just before he went on, the concern was around South Korea, Japan and India, considering they are in our top 10 largest export nations. The manufacturing goods they do in those nations are our supply products of things like aluminium, copper, iron ore and steel. They are the ones that I'm probably also concerned about for the indirect effect it will have on us. But the beef one is the big story. That could be a suggestion that we're going to have a $3 billion black hole in our beef industry. Something we saw with China when we had the bans between 2021 and 2024. We will find other areas, we will find other nations to train with, but it is a big hit if it's going to be the case that it's going to be a ban into America for beef industry.
Yeah, well, as you said, just looking at the numbers, so financial year 23-24, it was $3.3 billion of exports to the US, about $15 billion in total, so to other places around the world. So although it is a significant amount, a really big amount, $3.3 billion, it's not the total amount, so maybe we can find someone else to sell our beef to. The other thing he alluded to in talking about beef was that biosecurity element, and how he would have done the same thing, he said. If we start taking some American beef, does that then become a trade route for us to be able to sell back to the US?
That would be the principle. Again, the catch that would come with it, Shervo, that we don't know is that our biosecurity laws are very strict for a very good reason. If we were allowing US beef into the country, it would have to go through a very, very high stringent testing process. He would probably see that as a cost, and he would see that as some form of barrier to entry. Does he then slap that back on reciprocal movements for us into the US? That would be the first question that would happen for it. Again, these are hypotheticals, because at the moment we know that basically there is still minimal understanding about what this will apply starting from midnight tonight. So I think that's a very good question, one that will be raised. Again, you've been hearing from the Trade Minister and Don Farrell that at the moment the American Trade Organisation is not listening to anything coming from any nation at all. They want this in place and then they'll wind it back. And again, the news out of the US this morning is the same thing. They're starting at the top and then they'll work back down. And so there is probably some movement to be had with regards to what it ends up on, but the UK is the example. The 10% tariff would probably be what we will get as well, and then beef is the other big story.
Okay, just why do we ban American beef?
Again, there is, like with the UK, there is lines of biosecurity issues. So, you know, we have had mad cow in the UK. It's not the same, but there is certainly beef strains of influenza. There is also beef strains of other forms of tuberculosis that have come out of certain parts of the US. That is why we blanket do it. Again, is that an argument going forward? That will be the question.
Okay, Evan, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we might try and get someone from the beef industry.
Yeah, great idea.
See if they're obviously deciphering that, because that has just been announced at the White House. If you're just joining us, Donald Trump has revealed staggering details on his sweeping global tariffs, including 25% levies on all foreign-made cars.
The US President spoke at the White House Rose Garden just moments ago. Here's what he had to say about Australia.
Australia bans, and they're wonderful people and wonderful everything, but they ban American beef, yet we imported $3 billion of Australian beef from them just last year alone. They won't take any of our beef. They don't want it because they don't want it to affect their farmers. And you know what? I don't blame them, but we're doing the same thing.
There you go. It's very tit for tat. He said our country has been raped and pillaged. Foreign cheaters have ransacked our jobs, our factories. We've been ripped off for 50 years and we're getting back at the world.